And we are back with America's Mayor Live on a Monday evening. And still either waiting for or haven't been informed of a ground invasion yet by the massive Israeli Defense Force. It's been poised to strike, I'd say, since Friday, predicted for Saturday. It was held back because of very, very cloudy weather, and therefore the necessary air support for what was needed wouldn't be there. Exactly what the reason for holding it back now, I don't know. Or it may have actually started, and we're going to be notified of it after it's underway. I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. Of course, it's early days are going to tell us a lot because Hamas has been preparing for such an invasion for years. Israel's been preparing for such an invasion for years. This is like I hate to analogize it to a football game, but it's that people have, played out 100 times in practice. The Hamas forces, I'm sure, have done everything they can to booby trap and make it difficult for the Israelis to get at the Hamas fighters that are really the target of this. Israel, unlike Hamas, is going to want to do everything that it can to minimize civilian casualties, understanding that that's probably not going to be possible because Hamas, even in earlier attacks of a lesser nature, has always been excellent at putting the children and the women up front and hiding behind them in order to create exactly the publicity that they're looking for, because they know that the international press is on their side, massively on their side. This is almost like, it's almost like covering Trump and Biden, right? I mean, Biden can proof can come forward of Biden committing world shocking crimes, and they will say, "Oh, it's been debunked." Oh, no, that the 31 million from China hasn't been proved. Oh, no, no, that's not right. I mean, after all, he is a drug addict. That's why he had the gun. Of course, that's the crime, the drug addict having the gun. And then Trump can fail to have paid a parking ticket 35 years ago, and it becomes a major capital crime. This is what they're facing. They're facing something like that. They know it. At least as of last week, their patience for being deterred by that seemed to have been overwhelmed by the barbarity of the attack of Hamas. The attempts to dispute it only work with the most ridiculous people. The proof is overwhelming in video, firsthand accounts, things that I'm sure I guess they've happened before in wars and we didn't know about it, but I don't think we've ever been confronted quite with this. The Putin invasion of Ukraine was brutal and horrid. I don't remember babies being beheaded. I think the number of rapes here has been phenomenal, an unbelievable number. The desecration of dead bodies took you back to somewhere in the maybe 7th and 8th century, which is really when Muhammad's wars took place. Before we get started, maybe there's a bit of breaking news, which again wouldn't surprise you, would it? That Biden and his feckless, useless, almost silly Secretary of State, Blinken, they're spending all their time working on getting Israel to open up a corridor for humanitarian aid for Gaza, particularly, giving them electricity, and not on getting the hostages back. And the two things are inconsistent with each other because the leverage that Israel is using and has been using to get the hostages back, you're not getting any electricity until you release those hostages. Well, it's pretty tough to meet the needs of your population without electricity, or even to effectively defend. So basically, they're asking Israel to give up the leverage they're using to get American hostages back. We don't seem to be doing anything else to get American hostages back, which wouldn't be unusual. He's left Americans behind to die before. And all we're concerned about is humanitarian aid for the people who carried out the attack on Israel. And this isn't coming out of the blue, like, ooh, up here. This is coming out of the communist wing of the Democratic Party. Tlaib and all of those anti-American traitors are arguing that this must be done. And, he's taken a strong position on Israel, but he's got to protect his communist flank. And he and Blinken are doing that. And really, their real sympathies here, there's no doubt their real sympathies here are for Iran and Palestine. Been that way for years, hasn't it? Since Obama gave them hundreds of millions in cash, and Biden was going to try to slip them that $6 billion, which we still don't know if they really got or not. But the point is, he made clear who his real friend is. You do not give $6 billion to a country that wants to wipe out your friend, do you? This country is Iran. If it's anything, it is dedicated to the proposition of destroying the state of Israel and eliminating and finishing Hitler's job of eliminating the Jewish people. How he can give $6 billion to them and then pretend to be a friend of Israel is beyond any hypocrisy I've ever seen. And I am not blaming my friend Bibi for having to go along with that, because he's got to save his people. But it has to be tough. Has to be tough. You come to me to help me and assist me to save my country. You're trying to give them $6 billion and they want to destroy me. And by the way, he's given them a lot more than $6 billion in the 2.5 years he's been in office. First thing he did was lift sanctions. First thing. But right here, whole story laid out how he and Blinken are putting maximum pressure on Israel for what they call water, electricity, and food for Gaza, a move that puts at risk the 199 hostages being held here under dire circumstances. And this is a quote from an Israeli security source in charge of the negotiation. We have a long history of dealing with this, and sieges work to get us hostages back. The only leverage Israel has over Hamas right now, adding that giving aid to Gaza gives Hamas options. No water hydrant will be opened and no fuel truck will enter until the abductees were returned safely. So he is undermining the position of the Israeli government in their tactic to get back their hostages and ours, which is time-tested with the ridiculous ideas of his pro-Iranian, pro-Palestinian, pro-Red Chinese State Department. We'll talk about that we'll talk about that very shortly, about Robert Malley and the infiltration of the Biden State Department, and show you what we're facing here, which kind of explains a lot of the questions, like how could they have done that? How could Obama have given them hundreds of millions in cash when they support terrorists? And at that time, that money went to terrorist activities that ended up killing Americans. And unless Obama is as dumb as Biden, which he isn't, a simple fool would know that you were converting that into cash so that it would be easier to give it to terrorists, so they wouldn't have to go through a middleman. Countries don't take money in cash. They take bribes in cash. Drug dealers take money in cash. Terrorists take money in cash. Countries take it by something called wire, like the 6 billion that we wired, and it held up, we think, if they're telling us the truth, in Qatar. There's a little dispute about that. But the reality is that Biden has chosen sides here, and he chose sides when he sent that money there. He chose sides a long time ago, actually. But a second front has now opened, even before Israel has had a chance to invade down in Gaza, and the second front is up north. The second front is basically shelling that's going on in the north from Lebanon. One is being done by Hezbollah, and they are hitting their actual target is a Israeli fort that they're going after and hitting in the northern part of Israel. And then a Hamas group located up there that works with Hezbollah is also shelling parts of northern Israel, and Israel is returning fire. So it isn't a massive second front yet, but it's a second front. It also is yet another indication to anyone with half a brain that Iran is behind this. Hezbollah would not make a move without Iran. To the extent that Hamas is controlled by Iran, the historical connection between Hezbollah and the reign of terror is much, much closer, virtually created by the reign of terror, and been their operatives there and in Syria. So there's no way that Hezbollah has decided to enter this, even with, I think it's 20 rounds so far, even with 20 rounds that have been fired, or that was as of a couple of hours ago, without a blessing from Iran. So we really are fighting a proxy war. We all know it. We know we're fighting Iran. We know they're calling the shots. We know they've been training Hamas for 2 years. We know they have a game plan for when they're going to bring in Hezbollah in a bigger way, bigger than now. They've already brought them in, but in a small way so far. We know that. It appears that there's only one person on earth that doesn't know it, and that's the idiot that sits in the White House, which is a real tragedy, isn't it? It's a real tragedy. He should have been removed way before this. He should have been removed when it was clear that he was demented. I mean, let's put aside the corruption now. Let's the corruption. I don't know. Well, that might matter here too, because he may have had all sorts of options here purchased away by China and others, but we don't know that. What we do know is he's not mentally competent, and we need a president now who's sharp and tough, and like these other people are doing, can put the best interest of the United States first. We are virtually without representation. We are. So the second front is opened, and Biden had already threatened what would happen if there was any further involvement of Hezbollah, Iran, Lebanon, Syria. But his threat, I don't know if this count as a threat in the history of generals and leaders in war. But you see what you think. This is what Biden thinks would deter a bloodthirsty, barbaric army from going forward. This is his pathetic interview with ass kisser Scott Pelley. What would you like to start with there? Well, I don't know. Ass kissing is always very unpleasant for me. So you people can watch it while this guy makes a total fool out of himself, both of them. Why don't we start with his threat that really must have shook the hell out of all these terrorists.
There needs to be a Palestinian Authority. There needs to be.
There's limited fighting already on the northern Israeli border, and I wonder, what is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't. Don't
come across the border. Don't escalate this war.
That's right.
Is Iran behind the Gaza war?
I don't want to get into classified information, but to be very blunt with you, there is no clear evidence of that.
At this point, no evidence that Iran is behind any of this.
Correct. Now, Iran.
That leads up to the don't.
There's limited fighting already on the northern Israeli border, and I wonder, what is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't.
Don't come across the border. Don't escalate.
Would that stop you? Well, I mean, if you were a trained terrorist killer with a massive force, Hezbollah is the largest terrorist force in the region that chops people's heads off, and I assume many of them are true believers, and then others are opportunists, soldiers of fortune. Would that pathetic creature saying don't say anything to you other than we're going to roll right over this idiot? Now he says don't, and he begins the process to the extent that that's any attempt to deter, right? He's now going to tell them that that there's no evidence of Iranian involvement, which is ridiculous. The mere fact that he's responding to Hezbollah attacking is evidence of Iranian involvement. Now, I don't know what liberal wants to dispute that with me, or what make-believe left-wing expert on foreign policy wants to dispute that with me. But if you do, you're a moron. Hezbollah is not going to be engaging in this war without their leader, Iran, saying, yes, now's the time. There isn't a person that understands the Middle East doesn't understand that. Now, this guy, who is supposed to be our leader, is going to say, there's no evidence of Iran. There's no one serious listening to this that believes this. Now, his feckless Secretary of State has been saying this for 3 days, which is why they laugh at him. But he's laughable. Blinken is a laughable guy. I guess he is too. But now listen to this. He's going to say that there's no evidence of Iranian involvement. The very question he's answering proves the Iranian involvement. And then he's going to once again do the Putin dance that Putin got him to do for a month and a half before he went into Afghanistan and wiped out all the Ukrainians, which is, no troops. We're not going to put any troops. No. We're not going to put any troops. No troops, because I'm scared. No troops. Instead of leaving him in doubt, like, I'll blow you off the face of the earth. Leave him in doubt. God, could we have Ronald Reagan back, please? Go ahead.
There's limited fighting already on the northern Israeli border, and I wonder, what is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't. Don't
come across the border. Don't escalate this war.
That's right.
Is Iran behind the Gaza war?
I don't want to get into classified information, but to be very blunt with you, there is no clear evidence of that.
At this point, no evidence that Iran is behind any of this.
Correct. Now, Iran constantly supports Hamas and Hezbollah. I don't mean that. But in terms of did they have foreknowledge? Did they help plan the attack? There's no evidence of that at this point.
That is so pathetic. That could be the most pathetic answer ever given by an American president. First of all, he looks like he's asleep. The drugs must have worn off or something. First of all, he tells you that they direct tells you that they direct Hezbollah, right? And then here's one of the most important things Hezbollah is ever going to do, with grave consequences for Iran ultimately. And they didn't approve it. Hezbollah all of a sudden now is on its own. And we have massive proof that they're behind the Iranian. We even have well, I don't know if our intelligence is worth anything, but we have intelligence going back a year that Iran was planning this with them. But all of a sudden, that intelligence doesn't matter. I guess he lies about that the way they lied about the hard drive. I don't know. Really, it's a great lesson. You really have to elect. I don't know. I guess the minimum here is a president with half a brain. So now we have the president saying, don't. He doesn't even complete the sentence. I guess he meant don't invade or don't shoot. But there's no evidence of Iranian involvement. Now let's get to where he does his usual, and there'll be no troops, which means now how are you going to stop them if they don't at least have the threat that we might possibly get involved? Even though several days ago, he sort of suggested he would use troops if he had to, if it escalated. But now he almost like a sniveling coward backs off the idea of using troops. And no one is suggesting he should or he shouldn't. What we're suggesting is that he learn how to play high stakes international foreign policy poker.
Can you foresee U.S. troops in combat in this new Middle East war?
I don't think that's necessary. Israel has one of the finest fighting forces in the country.
Yeah, play that again.
Can you foresee U.S. troops in combat in this new Middle East war?
I don't think that's necessary. Israel has one of the finest fighting forces in the country.
I mean, does Pele know how to ask a question? I mean, he just went ahead and said Iran has nothing to do with it. There's no evidence that Iran has anything to do with it. The most obvious question would be, but you just told me that basically Iran runs Hezbollah. And this is one of the most important things Hezbollah ever did. You're trying to tell me that there's no evidence that in and of itself is it evidence that they're involved in it? And Mr. President, that doesn't make any sense. But they question him like he's a senile old man, I guess. Scott Pelley went to the nursing home and found the dumbest guy in the nursing home and interviewed him. And the dumbest guy in the nursing home was the man who has our lives in his hands. And he squandered a hell of a lot of them in Afghanistan with that messed up brain. Not a person in Ukraine would have died if you hadn't elected him. Not a person. Because the invasion wouldn't have taken place. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. We'll take a short break and we'll take a look at what should have been obvious. When you have an administration that is anti-American as this, of course it's going to be infiltrated. And we'll show you how it was. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
They're watching like you're in on Weeknights at the same time. You're on air bowling right now.
I am on
And we're
air.
back.
Well, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to show you a guy working for Iran.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
Here.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
Welcome back. Don't forget, in a short while, we did our Balance of Nature commercial a little bit early because America, the live America's mayor was really live, getting out the pictures he wants to show you. There's one that he particularly wants to show you that he just got out because it involves one of his. It's a picture actually that I think is quite revealing about where the whole problem started and where it has to end. And we'll get to that in a minute. But Robert Malley is the son of a person named Simon Malley, who was a close personal friend of, let's get this right now, a close personal friend of Fidel Castro. That's a good recommendation, huh? He killed what? Who knows how many people? Like the early days, he killed homosexuals. And then, of course, originally when AIDS started, he put people with AIDS in jail because he didn't want it to spread. Well, this is the son of Simon Malley, who also was a good friend of Arafat's. In fact, considered Arafat his godfather. And he was...
Straighten it a little. There you go.
He was, until a few weeks ago, maybe days ago, the special envoy to Iran. Even though he is a partisan of the reign of terror and Palestine, rather, and very close to Arafat and the terrorists. I would imagine that this helps to explain things that I never understood, like why would they be so partisan and so friendly to Iran? How would Iran and Palestine know so much about what we were doing? Why the hell were they giving Arafat so much money for so long? I mean, Clinton is really the problem here. And let me show you that. It's this little shot here with Clinton. This goes back a bit. But Clinton is the one that brought, do I need to put it there? Is that better? There we are. Right there. You can see Malley as a younger man with Clinton and Arafat. That's about the time I threw Arafat out of the UN. And I did it really, did it for two reasons. I did it because as the United States attorney, I investigated Arafat for the murder of Leon Klinghoffer, which he ordered. He also ordered attacks on America. Roughly, we had prima facie proof of about 27 Americans that son of a bitch killed. And he's sitting there with an American president. This disgusted me. What I'm watching here disgusted me. As a young man, it disgusted me. I've always had the same principles. And when there was a UN 50 concert that I sponsored and paid for, not I, but my donors. And I was told at the last minute that he had been given a ticket, even though he had been distinctly uninvited. And so had the other monster, Castro. And the other monsters stayed out. He didn't even have the, he just basically, I think he was given a ticket by the king of Jordan because they're all afraid of him. I'm not. And I told my chief of staff and the police, throw him out. Tell him to get the hell out. I don't want him here. They said, well, he might not leave. I told them, pick him up and arrest him. He doesn't have a valid ticket. What do we do with people that don't have valid tickets? We throw them out. Yeah, but and then the UN person, Mrs. Sorensen, oh my goodness, she was terrible. You're going to cause an incident, an international incident. And I said, well, maybe that's good. Maybe I'll wake Clinton up and I'll stop giving. This guy's just going to double cross him. He's giving this guy a fortune. He's making him a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He's a murderer. And he's turned from a murderer because he's got Hamas doing his dirty work for him into a con man, which now I think everyone realizes I was right. Because when it came time to come across for Clinton, and Clinton gave away everything, like Democrats do. I mean, he gave away everything, even Jerusalem. Arafat said no. Why did he say no? Because if they solved the dispute, Arafat wouldn't be able to collect the money. It was all about Arafat getting money, not about the Palestinian people. And you wonder, why are the Palestinian people in this kind of shape when they've gotten so much money all these years? Because the leadership of Fatah and Hamas steal the money, like all the communist countries. Well, of course, they're a little different, but the same kind of dictatorship. They steal the money. Not too different than a lot of the American terrible neighborhoods that haven't gotten any better in years, like in Chicago. And plenty of money has been put in there. Just gets stolen by the Democrat politicians who control it. 55 years of Democratic control in Chicago, and every weekend is a war, and poor black young men are being killed. And I'm talking not necessarily about the criminal ones, some of the ones in the crossfire, but even the criminal ones. There shouldn't be that many people dying. And all these years, nothing done. You look at Baltimore, look at Philadelphia. All these years, all that money going back to the Great Society. This is what changed me from a Democrat to a Republican. Watching the crooked Democrats steal the Great Society money. And watching them create what I eventually had to fix when I became mayor. I didn't know it then, but watching them create what I eventually had to fix by stealing the money that was intended for poor people. And I used to think that Democrats were the party of the poor people. No, they're not. They're the party that enslaves the poor people so they can be elected. And it's a disgrace. And that's what they've become. It's really a disgrace. So Mr. Malley is now out for, he's on leave for allegedly mishandling classified information. I'm reading the article here by Isabel Vincent in the New York Post of yesterday. He grew up with Palestinian Liberation Organization leader Yasser Arafat as his reported godfather, and once wrote that the Israeli treatment of Arabs was shameful. So he can be really like an independent arbiter as the envoy for Biden. You see who Biden picks, right? Now, what side is Biden on? Don't give me this crap that you support Israel. I'm sorry, you don't give $6 billion to a country that wants to destroy a country that you support. That isn't support. That's treachery. Not support, it's treachery. Do you know what treachery is? It's Joe Biden's life. Malley is under probe along with members of his Iran negotiating team for compromising ties to the Iranian regime. He once tried to normalize relationship with Hamas. He's also been quoted as calling Hamas leaders logical. The 60-year-old was suspended under a cloud of secrecy, of course, right? They're not going to tell us what happened. We'll find, but I bet we find out about him before Hunter Biden. or Joe. The 60-year-old was suspended under a cloud of secrecy by the State Department in June. At the time, he confirmed that his security clearance was being investigated. And then there are pictures of him. Then there are pictures of his father with Fidel Castro. And he served as the Biden administration's special envoy for Iran since January of 2021. This guy who thinks that the Hamas people are logical, right? That the Israeli treatment of Arabs is shameful, and who considered his godfather to be a mass murderer and major international crook named Yasser Arafat, who stole money and his people starved. That's who they selected as their. No wonder our relationship is run in the best interest of Iran. Biden doesn't know how to run a relationship in the best interest of the United States. This whole thing of America first, America's not even on the scoreboard with this guy. Now he was teaching at the Jackson School of International Affairs. You got it, at Yale. And then he was, before that, the president and CEO of you also got it, the George Soros-backed International Crisis Group. Guess if he were a prosecutor, he'd be releasing criminals, right? He's regularly spoken with Hamas, has a close relationship with them. He tried to normalize the U.S. relationship with Iran. Normalized the relationship. Just the other day, when they found out they were getting the $6 billion, instead of taking a day off, they had demonstrations in the street saying "Death to Israel" and "Death to the United States." I guess Mullah Malley, which is his nickname, agrees with that. Death to the United States. There was a petition to remove him as the Iran envoy, and a request to put someone in the American people can trust and respect. And he worked very, very hard to give false descriptions about the death of Masa Amini. That's the lady who died last year, who was killed because a little bit of a hair was coming out from under her head covering. And his father was an Egyptian-born Jew, an Arab nationalist journal who dedicated his life to anti-Israel causes. Simon Malley embraced national liberation movements around the world and was a trusted confidant to Arafat and former Cuban, were they going to say dictator or are they going to say murderer, which is what he was? Dictator, very good. Fidel Castro. Well, let's find out how many more traitors they have in their administration. I mean, the biggest one was the one at the top. I don't think any of them got the kind of money he got from an enemy of the United States. But of course, I don't know when we're going to investigate that. I guess when the moon shines green, right? I think that's probably the answer. It's a terrible thing. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible thing that is going on. And unfortunately, we have a year and a half, almost a year and a half more to put up with this. But you better be getting ready to get this guy out of the White House. We can't take this much longer. We really can't. So now I'm going to have my
Balance of nature.
I think you guys should do this and therefore make it clear that we're at that point in the show. I think I have to do too much work.
You want us to announce the balance?
No. I want you guys to do the
Oh, the shaking of the.
Yeah, it'll be the anticipation of this big moment in the show.
Well, we want to do 8:30.
You want to do it at exactly 8:30?
I think 8:40 is Let's do 8:40. Right? Because the break's at 20. No, we're doing it right now. 8:40 is our balance in 18 minutes. Oh, okay.
Tell them about Balance of Nature while I perform.
That's Balance of Nature. Visit balanceofnature.com. And be sure to get dozens of fruits and vegetables all packed into one pill and use that promo code Rudy. Using that promo code, you will get 35% off.
Put a little of this in
And not
there.
only are you doing your body a huge favor, but you're supporting everything that the mayor is doing with the program here. So again, it's really a win-win-win situation. You're doing yourself a favor, your body and mind. You're supporting America's Mayor Live. And in the long run, you're supporting America and the values that made this country great. That's balanceofnature.com. Be sure to use that promo code Rudy. That's the important part. Of course, you're doing your body a favor, but when you use that promo code Rudy,
You do Rudy a
you're
favor.
doing the mayor.
When you do
America's
the Balance
Mayor
code
Live
Rudy,
favor.
you do Rudy a favor.
So use that promo
Make it
code to
possible
join
for
us.
him. You make it possible for him to afford real fruit and
So continue.
give him what the Bidenistas are doing to me, babes. I think they're trying to. I think
Join
they're
the
trying to do
cause.
everything, like even starve me and stuff.
You're gonna eat spinach,
I do eat spinach.
like Popeye.
I do eat spinach. Here, I mean, this is another article about this. The Iranian influence operation penetrated Team Biden, the full consequences of which are as yet unknown. Rob Malley, Biden's chief Iran negotiator, had a security clearance suspended by the State Department. So we're going to have to find out. We're going to have to find out, exactly the full nature of that. Now, the real answer to this, and the real answer to peace, if you want peace in the Middle East, is very simply Iran. Yes, Hamas has to be eliminated, but the Ayatollah has to be taken down. And there were extremely effective protests going on in Iran when Trump was in office. And unlike Obama, who turned his back on the Iranian protesters, that'd be like if Ronald Reagan had turned his back on the Polish protests. But Obama did have early communist training. So he turned his back on the Iranian protesters, and those protests went nowhere. When they started again during the Trump administration, all Trump had to say was, I support them. And the protests went on continuously for over a year and a half. They were in every Iranian city, and they started to reach into the middle class. They started to reach into protests by taxi drivers and teachers. And I'm going to tell you, because I get excellent information from inside Iran and not from the government. They wouldn't give me a damn thing, right? Maybe even when Trump was president, they wouldn't give me anything, since I'm not sure how many of them were, traitors to Trump at least, but, to the president. But in any event, those protests were knocking the hell out of the Ayatollah. And he had a shoot to kill order out for the MEK, the Mujahideen al-Khalq, who is the major organization. But there are a number of organizations that have a united front. They had an excellent functioning headquarters in Albania, which has since been interfered with, and with no help from Biden. When this would happen under Trump, they would get help. See, Trump was against Iran. You got to understand me. It's hard to understand this, but maybe seeing this spy in there will tell you that. Biden and Obama are in favor of Iran. Now, you tell me why. I don't know really why. I get their movement toward communism. I know what it is. I can see in Biden's case, it's because he originally was stupid and now is demented. In Obama's case, it's probably ideological, and Hillary's, because they're not stupid or demented. But I don't get this Iranian thing. I really don't, unless it's an Obama problem. I mean, he never could say Islamic extremist terrorism, Obama. Now, these Islamic extremist terrorists have killed a lot of the people he was governing, like Soleimani. But he would never want that word used. I have a simple rule when I have to achieve defeating someone or something evil. You've got to face realistically what you're trying to defeat. If you play euphemistic games, you lose. If you can't say Nazi, you're never going to defeat the Nazis. If you can't say communist, you're not going to defeat the communist. If you can't say fascist, if you can't say dictator, if you can't say murderer, you are never ever going to defeat them. If you're playing some kind of game not to hurt people's feelings by saying Islamic extremist terrorists, because you're going to get decent Islamic people insulted, you're never going to win, because you've got to learn a method of honest communication with decent Islamic people. That I'm not talking about you when I'm talking about Islamic extremist terrorists, and you should break your alliance with them. Your alliance as a decent person, and this is true for most Islamic people in America, but your alliance is with truth and decency and peace, not with the animals who cut people's heads off. Now, I learned that in dealing with the mafia. I'm an Italian American, and when I first started going after the mafia, which a lot of people think was on purpose, it really was opportunistic in the sense that I knew a lot about it, and I knew I could get them. I saw like you see a constellation I saw the constellations in plays. This is very, very arrogant, but this is when I've done my best work. I could see that I was in a perfect position to pull it all together. And when I started to do it, I really was attacked very heavily by the Italian American community. Interestingly, I was attacked by the Italian Civil Rights League, which really, it was good to attack me because I just laughed at them. They were founded by Joe Colombo, the head of the Colombo crime family. Like, I'm going to get really all upset that they're, but a lot of Italians didn't know that. A lot of good people didn't know that. They didn't know that. Mario Cuomo actually said it. This was probably one of his bad moments, that there is no such thing as the mafia. Now, Mario knew better than that. Mario damn well knew there was a mafia for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to tell you because they're all bullshit. A lot of Italian Americans, all Italian Americans in many ways, have some knowledge of it or some connection to it. I don't mean criminal connection. I mean, like they know the guy next door or this one or that one or some relative, and they hate it, but they got some connection to it. And what you had to do, and this is what I thought I could achieve for them, is I had to get them to say that as an American Italian, which is the way I prefer it, our allegiance is to America and the law. And these people are an aberration. Italian people don't by nature kill people. Italian people are not by nature bullies who go into stores and say, I'm going to take over your store because we're going to break your legs if you don't pay us. Italian people by nature don't sell drugs that take away everything from you, take your life away, take your dignity away. And you become a millionaire off destroying the lives of decent young people. Most Italian people are very good people. They're religious. Humble. They're very nice people. Yeah. They have a particular fondness for music and food and family, love and family. Yeah. Now that's true. I can do that for. You want me to tell? I know Irish people really well. I grew up in an Irish, Jewish, Italian neighborhood. They have different characteristics, but they all have their really good parts. They got a couple of bad parts, each one of them, including the Italians. but not the criminal parts. And they all have criminals. There are plenty of Irish criminals, as many as percentage-wise, as many as Italians. Believe it or not, plenty of Jewish criminals. Percentage-wise, unfortunately, the Italians decided to organize it in one group with a lot of attention called the mafia. But the percentage of Italian Americans that are crooked is probably the same thing as everybody else. You know why? Because they're human beings, and the same thing is true with Islamic people. And if you play into that, we're not going to say mafia, and we're not going to say Islamic extremist terrorists, you keep the alliances in the wrong direction. And you never break them away from feeling this ethnic defensiveness where they have to defend the worst people in their group rather than ally themselves with the best people in their group. A terrible, terrible mistake. And it comes from people who were trained as Marxists, like Obama, who divided us. I mean, we were on our way to ending this damn thing until that guy came along. And then now this group is even worse because maybe just because it's gone further and they've gotten more power. And of course, they're leaderless now. So whoever is calling the shots is unaccountable because we don't know who it is. We think we do. I think I do. You probably think you do. But we can't be sure. I think it's Obama, but I'm not sure. And he's behind, like the Wizard of Oz. He's behind the curtain, and he's doing what he once said he wanted to do. He really didn't want a third term. He just wanted somebody in office he could boss around. Well, who better than a demented man? Who?
Bunch of Black Panthers?
No. I don't know if they're, well, are they Black Panthers? Well, the Black Lives Matter is just a second generation or third generation of Black Panthers.
Yeah.
A lot of the people helping them are cop killers who got released by Democratic presidents because Democrats don't like cops.
Eric Holder, Jeremy Wright.
So, I mean, just a little summary of why it is that I can say with great confidence that Biden supports Iran, not Israel. His statement there that there's no evidence of Iranian involvement is about as big a lie as he's told. And he's told big lies. He's told big lies. But probably no president has told the lies that he's told. There's a mountain of evidence, not as much as the mountain of evidence that he's a 30-year major criminal, but there's evidence, substantial evidence. And the reason he's being asked a question almost gives you the answer, which is Hezbollah's attack, which means triggered by Iran. The idea that he won't even raise the possibility of American troops should the war widen, which gives them, like it gave Putin, a great deal of confidence that they can push pretty damn far before they're going to have to face an enemy that they really can't quite match up with, except maybe with him there. I don't know. He made a statement also that most Palestinians are not Hamas. That's not true. Who elected Hamas? I didn't. They did. And polls don't show that. Polls show that there are a large number of Palestinians who are not, but not the vast majority. And plus, it isn't just the Hamas people that are taught to kill Jews, and hate Americans. It's all Palestinians are taught that. So before they could be admitted into the family of nations, there'd have to be a real careful vetting of just exactly what the new generation believes. But I'm sure not going to want to see my country help to create a new country, a state that's terrorist and wants to kill my fellow Americans. The only people who would do that are people who hate America.
Well, Mayor, Joe Biden's office did announce within the hour that he will be traveling to Israel.
Well, that's going to bring
your reaction to that.
That's going to bring a lot of light to the situation. I mean, we'll have to flip a coin as to whether he knows he's there when he gets there. I mean, when he showed up in Cambodia, he thought he was in Colombia. The press didn't tell you that the other day he tripped twice again going up the stairs.
I saw that.
Going up the stairs, he tripped twice. I mean, how many times this guy get a trip before they lock him up and put him in a special little room where you can't trip?
Wednesday. He's going there Wednesday.
Do they have pictures of that trip, or have they embargoed pictures of Biden tripping twice, going up? I think 4 steps.
It's been erased.
It's been erased.
It's hard to find. It is hard to find. We'll look for it now while we.
We should take a series of things that he could do, like fall downstairs, or and then take bets on it. Which one's going to happen when he goes?
Well, he did. I mean, he did it twice.
Yeah,
He tripped going up the stairs twice.
yeah, I saw it.
You want some more indications about how this administration is compromised? This idea that he just said before, that we eventually will have to build a Palestinian state. If this last 2 weeks teaches you anything, it's that a 2-state solution would be absurd. Oh, we're going to build a state so they have even more people that want to come and chop children's heads off. Are you crazy? Who's paying you to say these things or think these things? Soros? I don't know.
Somebody.
He ignored all those protesters for months that were protesting against the Iranian government, which any other American president like Trump would have used, or Reagan or Bush even, would have used as leverage against the Iranian government. But he's so close to them, he wouldn't have done it. He also has substantially relaxed sanctions. We can't quite calculate how much that's put in the hands of Iran, but a lot. Their economy isn't doing a lot better because they're doing a lot better. Their economy is doing a lot better because the sanctions that Trump enforced, he is loosening up day by day. The $6 billion was like the frosting on the cake. And the $6 billion was not only a frosting on the cake, it was a clear indication of where his heart is. It's with the terrorist nation of Iran. Maybe because that's where Soros is. And maybe because they see it as leading to an international world in which American nationalism is finally extinguished. Because that's the core of the Soros doctrine, that American nationalism is sick and very, very dangerous. The core of our doctrine as MAGA is that the best thing to happen to the world is American nationalism. Please let me be clear. It is not that American nationalism is perfect, but it's better than anything else. So far, nobody's done better. It sure beats China, where they've killed 80 million of their own people. I mean, do we even have to make the comparison?
And how much have other countries benefited from the United States?
Well, tremendously. I mean, they live off us.
Yeah.
China lives off us. Chinese economy's growth in the last 30 years is because we stupidly encouraged it on the theory that China would become a capitalist country because it would see the benefits of it. But we didn't realize, and you ultimately would have to blame Kissinger and people like that. They didn't know when to cut it off. Did the whole idea of opening a 2-step approach to communism in Russia, and did that make sense? I guess it did. Did we make the Roosevelt mistake of falling in love with Joe Stalin? Yeah. Not only Henry, but all the rest of them fell in love with China. And they fell in love with China for 2 reasons. First of all, China was excellent at it, at playing the peaceful rise. We just want a peaceful rise. And we'll eventually, when we see when you give us all this money and all these benefits and all, we're going to become like you are. And secondly, agreed. They looked at the Chinese market and said, wow, this is 5 times the American market. So we'll make a fortune here. I've had people tell me, people like Steve Wynn tell me that he could give up Las Vegas in a minute and make 5 times as much in China, or he makes 5 times as much in China. Now, I'm not saying Steve, I don't know what Steve's feelings are beyond that, whether that has affected him and he's pro-China or he's not or whatever. I'm just telling you the statement. But that's true of a lot of American businessmen who sold their soul as a result of that. And then there's the Chinese infiltration, which is brilliant. I mean, it's a much better execution of what Russia tried, but they're just better at it. Now, I'm really familiar with what Russia tried because that's how he began as an investigator with the FISA court and the Russian investigations. But Russian intelligence was nothing compared to China. The Chinese are much better at it. Their infiltration of our universities, unbelievable.
Well, we have video of Joe Biden tripping the other day in Philadelphia.
A little comic relief.
And of course, this was sent. Why does he do that phony little run?
Yeah,
Maybe that's what screws him up.
it does.
Let's watch it again.
Like that little phony.
Wasn't hurt, so we're allowed to.
Yeah. Oh, I don't care if he gets hurt.
Honestly, and people have disputed this with me. I have never, ever seen in my life, in person or on television or a movie, a person tripping going up the stairs. I've seen, and you have, and I've tripped going downstairs. People trip going downstairs. It's easy to miss a step in the dark, right? But I've never seen anybody trip going up the stairs. What's that about? I mean, it's like when he smells the hair of women. I have never in my life, and I've looked it up, and it is a fetish, but it was a big surprise to me when I first saw him smelling the hair of women. I said, what's wrong with this guy?
At first, you thought it was maybe he's not really doing that, but then after seeing it done 20 different times,
No, it's a thing. If you go in the DSM-5 or you use the cheap version, the Google, they'll tell you it's a fetish, like kissing feet or something.
Yeah.
There's a foot fetish. You know that, right?
Which I could never understand.
That's a big. There's
a real
audience for the
there's
foot
a
fetish.
real
That's a real
demonstration
fetish.
of that on the hard drive. I'll tell you that. I hate to get into those parts of the hard drive. I've been a gentleman about that. But there's one big, long demonstration of that one,
Well, I think we are in soccer time, but
including instructions.
I do believe we should get our QUX commercial in and then come back, Mayor. And maybe,
But there are no instructions in the hard drive that I know of. And maybe Miranda, when we have her on, I'll ask her if she's done a better job, or Costello done a better job of looking at on the ins and outs of how to do an appropriate hair sniffing. But there is an instruction on how to do an appropriate foot thing. These perverts are in the White House.
The year is 2022. Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom, as we know it, has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside of big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Quick's digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Quick's. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting quicks.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
Here's Iranian-loving, reign of terror-loving, Hamas-loving Robert Malley with his hero, mass murderer Yasser Arafat. Now, there is no one that can dispute that he was a mass murderer. No one. That's what he did before he became a mass thief and sold out his people. If he had let half that money get to his people, we might be over the problem. But he began by killing people. Then he turned that job over to Hamas. And here he is with Bill Clinton. And I don't know how he sold the bill of goods to Clinton. I think Clinton wanted to believe it. And they kept making concessions to him. And the biggest problem in the original concessions, what do you do about Jerusalem? The Jewish people say it is the religious and capital of the Jewish religion. If you read the Bible, it's returning to Jerusalem and the temple, and the Muslims say it's a very important to them because of the high temple above the Jewish temple. They're unfortunately they're both on the same ground, and it's in that place. It's not their. I mean, it's not their capital. The center of the Islamic religion is in Saudi Arabia, and and you don't make a hijra there. You make it to Saudi Arabia, but it is a religious. It's one of their 5 or 6 most sacred sites because it is, the Quran says that Muhammad slept there at the Temple Mount, right at the top, above. I don't know what there had to be the remains of the Jewish temple there when he did it, because the Romans had by that time destroyed it. I mean, many centuries before, but he slept there. And he was picked up by the angel, I think it is Gabriel. And the angel Gabriel took him to heaven, where he met everyone. And he met all the great prophets, including Jesus, going back to, I think, ending up with Abraham. So they will often say that the 3 religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, have a common father, Abraham, because their Quran goes back to Abraham. And they pick up a lot of, with variations of the Old Testament, up to Abraham. They don't go to Moses or... Moses is, however, in early Islamic thinking, Moses was a great prophet, respected by Muhammad. And Jesus was a great prophet, respected by Muhammad. But the greatest one was Abraham. And the greatest one of all, of course, was Muhammad, who was really the representative of God. And the Quran, according to Muhammad, was dictated to him, I think, by Gabriel. And I think it was during this trip, and that's the legend, or the truth of the story, or whatever. I don't think I buy into they flew him to heaven. Now here's the problem. He tried to sell that to the people in. He tried to sell that to the people in to the Arabs in town, and they knew him as a merchant, a lot of strange ideas, and they thought he was crazy because he had epilepsy, and he would have fits. He would have epileptic fits. Now, they didn't understand what epilepsy was, so they thought he was either crazy or possessed.
Yeah.
They thought so. He would say that was a sign of his possession by God and by Gabriel.
Yeah.
They would say, no, this is possession by Satan, by the devil. The Arabs would say that, and the Jews and the Christians would learn about it from the Arabs. So he tried to sell his religion to the Arabs, and they said, "No, you're nuts." And then he went to the Jews and tried to convince them that they should convert and join that his religion was just a completion of theirs. And they told him to go to hell. Then he tried the same thing with the Christians, and then he finally got thrown out of town. Went out into the desert, and it's in the desert that he converted people. It's the uneducated in the desert that became his disciples. And then he came back, and he converted by a war. He didn't convert by preaching the way Jesus did. He made war on these towns and gave him a mafia proposition, which was convert or I'll kill you. And then he figured a third one. Because remember, he was a merchant. You can pay me.
Opportunistic.
So you can become Islamic. You can you can but you can remain with your own religion if you pay me. And he had a name for it. It was like tribute, but he had a religious name for it. And some did, some didn't, and the ones who didn't wiped out. And the religion spread like wildfire. So that's why you get opposing interpretations of the Quran. So very peaceful Muslims will take the early part of the Quran when he was in his first phase of trying to convert, and he says very, very laudatory things about the Jewish religion and the Christian religion. And then when we get in the second phase, when they excluded him, he becomes quite nasty about the infidel and about killing them. It's a different, and the other part, nobody wants to hear this. The other part that makes it complicated is the Quran is not in chronological order or even approximate chronological order like the Bible. It was, so you can't just say, well, the first half is the early phase of Muhammad and the second half is the late phase of Muhammad. You have to reorganize the books. And if you reorganize the books, you'll see what I'm saying. If you reorganize the books, you'll see a different Muhammad in part one in terms of his relationship to other religions, and then different in part two. Now, if you're an Islamic scholar, which one do you want to put the emphasis on? Because, I mean, there are a lot of things in the Bible, particularly in the Old Testament, that we interpret away, right? Stoning women was part of the Old Testament. We just...
Nobody wants to talk about that.
No, they don't talk about it. We don't do it, right? I mean, we don't do it anymore. We say it was a product of the times, and that's the thing that we can interpret out of the religion.
Perhaps slavery? Was that ever?
Well, I don't know. Slavery was never approved. No. I don't think so. I don't think the Jewish people ever had slaves. If they did, it would have been an aberration. They were slaves.
But obviously, it's the type of thing.
They were held as slaves. I think probably that's the reason why they abhorred slavery, because they have, obviously the biggest period of time was when they were held by slaves by the Egyptians.
Yeah.
So this war has the possibilities of escalating big time, largely because we've got a Chamberlain-like figure in the White House, but we've got a Chamberlain-like figure. I mean, Chamberlain wasn't demented or heavily influenced by whatever you want to call the Soros internationalist communists.
Bilderberg, Rockefellers.
Yeah, I don't know what we got here, but we got a guy that's not on our side. And to tell me he's on the side of Israel is laughable, because I'll just come back to the fact that you do not give $6 billion to a country that wants to destroy your friend. I'm sorry, that's not your friend. You're a hypocrite. You're a liar. And you're a scoundrel when you do that. And of course, that would fit all the rest of his life, wouldn't it? He's like that in all the rest of his life. So why wouldn't he be like that here in the area in which he's been the least successful, foreign policy, where his own fellow cabinet member in the Obama administration said he never got a foreign policy decision right in his life.
Unless it's foreign policy.
So we have got to spend some time on a much less important topic, but I'm very angry today because I feel that my New York Giants got a bad break last night. And I really do think there should be instant replay of touchdowns. All touchdowns. I believe in Irish football and Australian football. I remember when I went to an Australian football championship, the guy would score. I don't know if they call it a touchdown, but they have a thing like a touchdown where I think you get 5 points for that. And you get, I don't know if you get 1 or 2 points for in Irish and Australian football. I'm sure of Australian football, you can kick from any part of the field. You can do surprise kicks for points. So let's say you're on the 20-yard line and you got a little space with setting up. You can just kick it over the goal and you get a point. It's fun. I mean, because you see the guy, he gets himself free. Boom, he gets the ball right, and boom, he kicks it. So it really is much more of a game of football. You think about soccer they call soccer football. That really is the right description for soccer because you play with your feet. How much is left of playing football with your feet? The kick. That's it, right?
That's it.
It really is pass ball or run ball.
Or handball.
Handball, right? Handball, exactly. You use your hands along with your feet. But in any event, the pass interference and holding call on a pass interference is the most controversial thing in football, right? Because it is a bit of a judgment call because they're touching each other all the time. And certainly at the end of a game, in deciding a game, it has to be something that interferes. Just a little touching, they're not going to call it. But and they had called one right before this. I think that psychologically affected. I mean, they had called a pass interference call. Giants were virtually out of the game. Threw in the end zone. Looked like he didn't catch the ball, and that flag comes down, and they make a pass interference call, puts the Giants on a 1-yard line. All of a sudden, he puts the ball up, comes down, doesn't catch it. You can see the guy's hand in the receiver's face, which is immediately interference. His hand goes right in his face, not going for the ball. To constitute a pass interference call or to avoid a pass interference call, you have to be going for the ball with that hand. He didn't even know what the ball was. He put his hand over his face. But when you see the replay, you actually see him hold him as he comes across the line of scrimmage. So he had 2 calls. He had holding and interference, and they didn't call it. And game's over. Buffalo wins. Had he made that catch, the Giants would have won. And that should have been reviewed because I think in the heat of the play and the speed of the play, they missed a hold. It took place at the line of scrimmage, and you didn't see it until the replay. And if they replay everything else, I don't know why. Why do you want a game decided incorrectly? I don't get it. It's long enough anyway, so.
Well, we're going to play in a second here. We have it.
Yeah, do we have the hold, though?
Just need 2 seconds.
They wanted to go
Just
home.
keep talking for a second. I'll get it.
Okay. You can clearly see the interference. The hold, you got to get the right angle for the hold.
Yeah, I'm loading that up next, but here we go. In 2 seconds, I'll have this ready.
Can you slow things down, Ted? Are you that good?
I would have. I'm running out of time.
You become good. We'll do a half-hour of sports after this.
Yeah, we could do that.
You and I could do that.
Time.
We could do football and baseball. Other sports. I used to be able to do basketball, but I don't follow it anymore. I can do a little hockey.
I love hockey. All right, let's play it.
Game's final play. Taylor over the top to Waller. Can't bring it in. Taron
That very, very. I think you can see the interference with the arm.
I have a slow motion version coming. It's just going to take a second.
But we need what we really need to see is the pass receiver crossing the line of scrimmage before the ball is thrown. And I think it's the same defender holds the back of his jersey. He grabs the back of his jersey, which is as clear a holding call as you're going to get.
Right.
And that hold clearly interferes with the play because even slowing him down, but that's a timed play. Even slowing him down by half a second is going to break up the play.
Yeah.
It was actually a beautiful pass.
That's right.
He obviously couldn't keep up with him, so he held him.
And then secondly, then he was blocked on top of it.
Yeah, but the one you can easily see
Yeah.
is when the hand goes in front of the face.
Yeah. I think it was his left arm.
That's right, Mayor. We're going to play it in 2 seconds here. So that was week 6, of course. So we'll try to recap your New York Giants scores on Mondays following. Giants.
Well, the Jets had a hell of a comeback. Whoa!
And the Jets, of course, came back. So,
and it would have been a hell of a thing if both of them came back because this would have been a miracle. This would have been a miracle win. And I didn't know the Jets had never beaten the Eagles.
never in the history of both franchises had they.
I mean, the Jets have been around since the 60s.
So because we put some time in this, we want to show you guys the full play, a full breakdown, and what the mayor was talking about. So we'll close on this video here. It's uploading as we speak, and then we'll go ahead and play that. In the meantime, we'll play a Balance of Nature commercial.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
What?
It's disgusting.
Switch it or stay on it. You're going to see Taron Johnson. He's going to stay on his. Instead of switching it, they communicated it just enough out there to make the play happen. Best on.
Yeah.
Not once.
What was the question, Mayor?
Where does he look? Where does the defender look at the ball?
Watch it again.
Switch it or stay on it. You're going to see Taron Johnson. He's going to stay on his. Instead of switching it, they communicated it just enough out there to make the play happen.
Now,
Okay. Thank you, Instagram. We're going to sign off.
at the line of scrimmage, they grab his jersey. I don't think you see that. They showed on television a shot that was just keyed in on that. So as he's crossing the line of scrimmage, the receiver is held briefly. But look, this is a 3-second play, 4-second play. Any kind of hold is going to interfere with it. But the most obvious one that you should have been able to see on the field, I don't fault the ref for not seeing the hold. I fault football for not having a replay that lets you see it. You know, it's like some of these plays where the umpire calls them out at first, and then when you see it slowed down, you see that the foot hit the base this much before the ball got in the glove that no referee would be able to see. It's unfair to expect. It would be unfair to expect the referee to see the hold, but it was a real hold and it really did interfere. It's not unfair to expect him to see what. I mean, the minute the play took place, I said the guy's not looking at the ball and he's putting his hand in the receiver's face. And as a result of it, the receiver can't see the ball. How's he going to catch it? And so it has to be the interference has to interfere with your ability to catch it. Well, nothing interferes with your ability to catch it more than putting your hand in somebody's face. We're going to play it again?
One more time. Then we should.
Switch it or stay on it. You're going to see Taron Johnson. He's going to stay on his. Instead of switching it, they communicated it just enough out there to make the play happen. Best on best, Taron Johnson against Waller. No call, and game over. Got a little jersey tug right there.
No doubt. No doubt. A flag would have been understandable given a jersey pull, because you said.
And I guess you can't ask for a replay on that, huh, Ted?
Nope, not anymore. There was a year you.
Not anymore. Why would they? Why would? What, don't you get it on out of bounds plays? Don't you get a replay on out of bounds to see whether both feet came down?
If a team has to challenge it, Now, all scoring plays are reviewed, but a penalty is not reviewable. There was a year where they instituted the ability to challenge a pass interference call, right? But then they eliminated that rule, and I believe it had something to do with, they didn't want to slow the game up or stop momentum so much.
Rather have the game get decided unfairly than slow it up. That's smart.
I mean, I'd have to read more. There was some reasoning behind.
No, I don't. I mean, the NFL was a big protagonist for Black Lives Matter, so we're going to expect much better from them. I guess we can't expect much better from them, right? No. Well, I'm sorry we went so far over tonight, but it is one of the more disturbing nights, given the performance of given the performance of you-know-who, and also my fear that what kind of support does Israel have when it's got somebody that's willing to give billions to a country that wants to eliminate them? And where is this all going to come out? And he wants a Palestinian state. And imagine if he had a Palestinian state. I don't think he sure couldn't get it through Congress, but I don't know if you would need Congress. That would get to create. Well, you would need Israel, and you're not going to get Israel. So.
After they destroy that Gaza Strip, does that then become Israel? No, right? That's not in the.
Well, usually other countries other than Israel get to keep what they capture, but Israel's not allowed to keep what it captures.
They desperately need land.
I mean, England always got to keep what it captured, but not if you're Jewish. I mean, there really is a point to that. I mean, they captured it fairly in war. They got attacked. They fought back, and they captured it.
Maybe if they get the support of the United States with a Donald Trump administration, maybe things could get.
Oh, I could see Donald Trump saying, "Not yours anymore." Mm-hmm. Well, we'll be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow we'll be on radio at 3:00 on WABCRadio.com, and then we'll be back here tomorrow night. Who knows? We may have some football play. We may have some controversial football plays for you. And let us know what you thought of that play. And I know if you're a Buffalo, I don't want to hear from Buffalo fans or Giant fans, because Buffalo fans are going to say it was okay, and Giant fans are going to say it was wrong. I want to hear from neutral fans. I'm very, very good at, particularly when it's not the Giants or the Jets, I can be very good on being very objective. If it's the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills or something, because I'm not that, overwhelmed by Taylor Swift. I don't mean anything bad about her. I mean, I'm not like, I don't understand all these millions of people for Taylor Swift, but okay. Well, God bless America. God bless Israel. God bless
Rudy Giuliani.
No, God bless the president. Please give him some wisdom. Somehow put it in there. Please don't let him sell out Israel. Please, please, please. Or America. Well, God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Good night.
Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply